a no human zone, probably of protection, where they're protecting their family, and they certainly don't want anyone near an area for some various reasons, whether it was a sacred ground to them or, the family was nearby and they just, basically there's times they don't want you in certain places, so they're going to scare you off like that.
I do feel strongly, now this is only my feeling, that if we wouldn't have took off running, I really think it could have got maybe a little bit bad. If we would have stood our ground, I don't think it would have backed off.
No, I wouldn't. No, and honestly, a first-time encounter like that, I would be running like nobody's business too. So you don't feel bad.
Well, like I was telling you, the hard part is, I had a car or a Jeep, off-road Jeep, but it had a lot of miles on it, and I was going to take that for our trip with my friend. But my wife just bought, like 2 weeks before my trip, she bought a brand new Cavalier. And she was so proud of it. And she goes, well, take the car. I want you guys to be more comfortable than that Jeep is. And I know that it'll be dependable because it's new, right? How do you explain when a big foot throws a rock on the front fender and puts a huge dent on it? You come back home a week early, because that's what we did, because we got scared and we said, no more. And we came back. My wife goes, well, how did you get that big dent in the car? What did you hit? What did you hit? And I go, I didn't hit anything. A Bigfoot threw a rock and took out the fender. Oh, yeah. What were you smoking? What were you drinking? I said, nothing. Absolutely nothing. Till this day, she doesn't believe me. So, hey, that's her loss, I guess.
Yeah, so these encounters like this is kind of... There's two kinds of encounters that you end up having with them. Is the one like the perchance encounter like you had, which was totally unexpected. And that's the way a lot of people, it's just they go out there, it's like you said, someone said, why didn't you take its picture? Well, it's the last thing on your mind because you weren't really there for that reason in the first place. So you may have had a camera with you, but you're not going to all of a sudden, let's hold that stance. Let me pull the camera out and let me get a good selfie of you. You're running. You got adrenaline going. You're not really concerned about taking pictures at that point.
Well, put it this way. I was so scared, my friend, when I got in the car, and either it was there off the side, in the wood, wood line, about 25, 30 feet from us, looking at us, and it screamed again really loud. At that point, I was in the car. I got it started. My friend was just getting his leg in the car when I shoved it in gear and drugged my friend. I'm surprised I didn't even kill him. That's how scared I was.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, there are a lot of reports like that, too. It's very similar instances where, and I will say that, unfortunately, that kind of encounter creates it does create a problem, because then now you have this fear thing to overcome if you happen to come up upon benevolent as opposed to a malevolent Bigfoot.
No, I don't know more, because no more. I have. You know what? I got a small mini farm, and I got about 2 acres of cedar trees. Okay, and I'm the only one left with trees that's not been logged out. That's my forest. Okay, I got raccoons, I got possums, and I got squirrels and woodpeckers and owls. I'm happy with that. You will never. I have never had the feeling to go back in the forest after that. Go camping, no nothing. I lost total interest in that because that's how scared I was. And I went through Vietnam. So and that was bad enough. But when you run across something like that, it does something to you. Now maybe if it was a different type of...
You still have that fear now.
Yeah. Well, yeah. That's just me. Now, other people have reported, have been on my show, that they saw Bigfoot and they threw rocks at them and then left them alone. And in this case, it wanted us gone. So, I can only go by my experience, not anybody else's experience. So I know one thing. They are Bigfoot. And I don't think that thing could have been a human running between 2 legs and 4 legs, dressed up in a Bigfoot and weighing about 800 pounds. That's probably what it weighed, between 500 and 800 pounds, from what I could tell.
Well, we today I thought I mentioned. Well, me and a friend. Her name's Anita, and we do a lot of work in our research for the last year. since she's joined me in doing stuff, up that way. And we were on the top of the mountain, and we were basically had a couple of trash bags, and they were it's where people go up there and kind of ruin nature with shooting. So there are tons of shotgun shells and garbage and everything. So we picked it all up, bagged it all up, and then we got the chairs out and did some drumming and flute playing. And so I looked over to the side of the mountain, or the hill, and looked, and I kind of spotted something that says, I think they're over there. I'm going to go ahead and take a picture. And I just posted the picture, and his head is huge. I mean, we're talking about the full-size trees, and his head looks like he's standing next to a bush, but it's a full-size fir tree. And so you're talking about I think the larger ones, that exceed 15 feet in height, 15 to 20 feet actually have to stay in the high country because it scare the devil out of people. There's a lot of smaller ones. The young ones and the smaller ones tend to be closer to around the humans are, like around where I live and stuff, because we do have a lot of juvenile activity, so.
Wow. I don't know.
I mean, it's like, it's kind of funny because I'll get on like a program like this, and it's just this usual thing. We have interactions every day with them, and it's just like, oh, you're kidding me. No, it's just we go out there and we have we established a protocol on dealing with them. I have a method. I guess I should go back. And I should go backwards a little bit because I'm going to end up jumping around a little bit.
Yeah, okay, that's fine. We got time. I know. But we don't want to confuse the listeners. I'm not going to scare you. I'm not going to scare you. But on our last statistics on all the different apps, and we're on a heck of a lot of apps, we have around 60 to 80,000 people listening between the live show and the replays.
Oh, okay. Yeah, those are pretty decent numbers.
Yeah, well, it's growing really fast at this point.
Oh, absolutely. And this is one of those subjects that kind of captivate people, especially when you start talking about little people. We'll get into that in a second. But my experience with them didn't happen like yours, or where all of a sudden I got frightened, because then I would probably never go out in the woods again. But the experience was more like the spoon-fed version of it, where I'm going to give the really shortened version of it. Hang on a second. As of 2012, most time I lived in Tacoma, which is just, I could throw a stone over where you're at in Gig Harbor. Now, maybe not that way.
Well, you need a really strong arm.
Bridge. Yeah, I had a really long arm to do that. But I once in a while, once in a blue moon, I'd go out and take a drive out to the Cascades, and I'd go out toward Enumclaw and hang out over there. And around 2000, and at that point in time in 2012, I did not believe. My belief system in Bigfoot was well, I thought it was a myth. Little people, a myth. I liked Harry and the Hendersons, the movie, great piece of fiction, so I thought. And I heard about the stuff in the 70s and the Patterson-Gimlin film, and I just didn't give it much mind. It didn't cross my consciousness too much. Of course, that was about the time I was starting to go through an awakening on other things. So it doesn't surprise me that this came into play. But in 2012, I had an opportunity to purchase an RV and actually park it at the local tavern there in Greenwater, Washington. I'm going to name drop here a little bit because people just love it up there. But and it didn't take very long that I went to the general store and met a gal named Barb Shoup, and who was there was a glass counter in front. The first thing I looked down, there's gigantic footprints and castings. And so those are real? I said, well, they're replicas, but yeah, they're taken from the real thing. And so, I'm open-minded at this point. I said, really? So she recounts the story real briefly of her going up the trail, just one of the trails that lead up town, no more than about a half a mile up. and recounted seeing a bunch of elk running by, and all of a sudden this very broad-headed, hairy thing running after them, and saying to herself, "We don't got mountain apes in Washington State," and before she realized it was a Bigfoot. And so that got her on the path of it, and so she was already starting to do YouTube videos and do it, it really propelled her into it a little bit. So I said, this is really interesting, but I didn't do anything about it. I wanted to join her sometime on her quest out in the woods, and I was busy with stuff. And then I started hearing things across the river, the most loud howls that could not have been possibly made by a human was coming from across the river from where I was at. And then
now I got a question. Green River, Green Water. I'm trying to think.
Green Water.
Yeah, isn't there like a campground, and then about a half a mile, if you continue on the road, there's a old store and gas station right there?
Yeah, that's it.
Okay, I used to go there all the time and go into the woods
really?
There. Oh yeah.
Yeah, I hate to tell you that this place is like ground zero for everything. This is where it's all happening.
Well, I had my 8 kids with me at the time, so that probably would have scared them off, especially with one of my kids.
Well, it's made quite an impact. I will, without deviating from the chronology of the story a little bit, fast forward just for a second, is me and Barb, as the 2 resident researchers of the whole area in that part, has made such an impact on the community that we went from people being skeptic to being most of them are pretty much believers on it, and market a lot of Bigfoot merchandise. We don't have anything. I don't have anything in that. Okay, but I'm just saying that the popularity of people wanting to find out Bigfoot has been translated into books about Bigfoot, or just stuff, Bigfoot dolls and things like that. So, and shirts too.
Well, what I find, and not just in Bigfoot, but in the paranormal field, I've had like ghost hunter groups on my show, and there's one like Southern Paranormal. Really like having them on the show. They've been on 3 or 4 times. They're really cool guys. They really do a lot of research, and they fund it out of their own pockets, and they're not like some of them. I've actually had a group on my show that I actually cut. They were booked for 2 hours. After 20 minutes, I cut them off. It seemed like, I was asking them questions like, well, where have you gone, ghost hunting at? Oh, we went to one person's house. I said, well, how long were you there? Oh, an hour or 2. And then the whole conversation was they wanted to get picked up by a cable channel. And
I see. It was a money thing to them.
Yeah, it was a money thing, or it's a social thing. I mean, how can you be a ghost hunting group if you only done one house for an hour and a half? I mean, now you're an experienced ghost hunting group that you think you can have a cable channel? That is so crazy. And I get these people, like I had a guy who was messaging me, every day for well over a month or so. Finally, I said, please, stop emailing me. I'm sorry. He claimed he was a Bigfoot hunter. Okay. And he a researcher and all this stuff, right? I asked him, I said, okay, tell me some of the places where you've gone and looked for Bigfoot, and what have you done? And he came back and he goes, well, I've been, and he's been doing it like supposedly for 20 years. Well, it turned out, for probably the last, 20 years since the internet came out, that's how he was doing it. He was researching it on the internet. Now, does that make him a Bigfoot hunter and an expert?
We have a term. We have a term for that. We call that armchair researcher.
Yeah.
If you're not getting out in the field or doing anything, you're just. And those are the worst kinds sometimes, because they just get on there and they comment about something, or they'll post other people's pictures and say, "What do you think about this? What do you think about that? Do you think it's a Bigfoot?" And they'll just pull something from somewhere. You have no backstory with anything, with any of it. If you're seriously looking at it, and one thing that irritated me more than anything else was being on one group, and all of a sudden someone posted a picture. He said, "What do you think of this?" With the express and knowing full well it's something he hoaxed, trying to get people to say it was real or not. and then turn right around and says, "Gotcha." It says, "You're saying